Hello, everyone. This is Doug Schnitzbein. I'm the editor of the new outdoor retailer publication, The Weekly. And this is the weekly chat where we delve a little deeper into the subjects that we start to get into in the magazine every week. And today's guest is Chad Bolick, who's the Global Vice President of Brand Sales at Unify Manufacturing Incorporated. And we're going to be talking about sustainability, sustainable products, tongue twisters, and all of that. But in the meantime, let's take a look at our house rules for these chats. You can, sorry, just one sec here. When you listen to the webcast, if you're having trouble receiving the audio, please select the question mark in the upper right-hand corner of the webcast interface. Select Test My System Now, and if anything goes wrong, you can always disconnect and rejoin during the chat if you have any technical issues, which quite often happens. If you want to ask a question, we love having questions in these chats, and we try to get to as many of them as we can. You can submit it in the box labeled Ask a Question. The questions are sent directly to the moderator and not shown publicly, so you don't have to worry about that. No one's going to call your name on a question. And as I said, we'll try to get to as many questions as we can during the chat. We love to get them. This webinar is being recorded, which is great because that means you can access the on-demand file later on the Outdoor Retailer website and come back to anything we discussed or any questions you asked during the chat. There we go. I'd like to introduce Chad to you first, and he has spent over 25 years as a sales and technical leader in the global textile industry. In his most recent role as Global Vice President of Brand Sales and NCA Business Development at Unify Manufacturing Incorporated, he leads the charge for the adoption of sustainable synthetic fibers and driving global demand for the South Carolina manufacturers' recycled and polyester nylon fibers. With those of us who know the outdoor industry, know Unify and Reprove pretty well in brands. Bolick has worked with large multinational companies like Nike and Target, helping them to integrate the Reprove fibers into their existing supply chains and products while maintaining quality and performance standards. And we're going to start this one a little differently because Chad has a presentation he'd like to do first to kick things off for about 10 minutes here. We'll have him do that, and then I'll ask him some questions, and then I will take some questions from you, my lovely guests. So take it away, Chad.
And Doug, thank you very much for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity. 10 minutes, it would probably be a stretch. I'll probably go through these slides a lot quicker because, like everyone who's on the cast, they probably don't like looking at slides and just listening to someone talk about them. But just wanted to talk a little bit, a little back history of where we are in the environment, what's going on, and then what we see things that are happening to change in the future. So in general, when was the last time we ever heard anything positive about the environment? You're always hearing about, plastics in the ocean, the polar ice caps melting, just overall the amount of waste that everyone is generating. And, if you really think about it, the average American throws away about 185 pounds of plastic each year. And, another staggering number that we always look at is by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there are currently fish in the ocean. Another way that you look at it is just the textile industry as a whole. And, historically, the textile industry has always been kind of known as a wasteful industry. More and more people are buying clothing every year. People are buying more clothes every year. They're buying, on average, about 60% more clothing every year than they have in the past. And if you think about it, people are throwing away more clothes every year. And in the textile industry as a whole, back in 2015, we actually produced 16 million pounds of waste and only recycled 15% of that. That's a pretty big number of a large amount of waste that we produce in a small amount of recycled amount. we are looking to see a change. And I want to talk to you a little bit. And with Unify and our company and Reprieve, we actually, our background is recycling polyester and nylon. So we do we have a lot of history in that. We have a lot of knowledge in that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about just, what can we do and how does a bottle become a textile? How does a bottle become a garment? How does a bottle become everything that I'm wearing today actually contains recycled polyester? And it starts with the consumer. It starts with everyone who is on this webcast and taking that bottle, putting it in the recycle bin. Those recycle bins go to material reclamation facilities. They're sorted. The plastic bottles then would move to a bottle processing facility, as we have in North Carolina. That bottle processing facility will sort those bottles by color, the caps. The labels are all removed. The bottles are then ground up into a flake form. That is then washed, and it's turned into a resin or a chip that can go into many, many textile products. And just to give you an idea of what some of the end uses that bottle could go into, in the chip form, you can go back. Easiest thing would be go back into a bottle. It can go straight back into a bottle. It could go into floor coverings. It could also go into any really molded plastic that you're looking at. Then you could also take that resin and you could turn it into a filament polyester. That filament polyester could go into athletic apparel. It could go into fleece. It could go into the tennis shoes that I'm wearing right now, the polo that I'm wearing right now. The other option is to go into a staple fiber. And staple fibers, that can go into fiber fill. That can go into really anything, again, like a T-shirt that can be blended with other types of fibers to go into a T-shirt, anything like that. So there are many end uses where that bottle can become a textile. And what I've shown you just briefly is just one option. But really, if you want to look at sustainability in textiles, you've got to look across the entire process. And we say every step counts. It goes from the fiber that you're using to the type of fabric construction that you're going with, to the types of finishes, dyes that you're doing. It's actually even down to the design of the garment and how easily are you wanting to deconstruct that garment to make that garment even recyclable. Even all the way down to the transportation. How sustainable are you? And we have a lot of people that look at, really how sustainable they are. And, you can look at along a chain of being fully sustainable or just getting your foot wet. It's really just a very quick and easy way to look at it is this graph right here, where you have kind of the beginnings of being sustainable or all the way to being fully committed to a sustainable product. This last little piece that I'm going to show you is just, if you look at the growth of polyester in the textile market over the past few years, polyester is continuing to take over market share. And as polyester grows, we're also seeing a growth of recycled polyester in the market. We're not seeing a decline every year, year over year. You're seeing a gradual growth of recycled polyester in the market. That's positive news for us, because that means people are actually asking for sustainable products, and the retailers, the brands are listening. So to close, again, I would just really like to thank everyone just for the opportunity to talk through this and hopefully have a really good discussion about sustainability in textiles and how, as a group, we can all work together to continue the path of really making the whole world a better place. So, Doug, I'll turn it over to you, and maybe we can start with some questions.
Yeah, I would say actually the first thing maybe is maybe you could just explain really quick, what Unify is and what Reprieve is, also for anyone who doesn't know. Really quick, just a basic.
Sure. So Unify, we are a U.S.-based company. We started in 1971, and primarily in the synthetic fiber business, so polyester, nylon. we're a global company. We're located, we have manufacturing in the U.S., we have manufacturing in Central America, we have Colombia, and then we have a lot of manufacturing over in Asia as well. Repreve we introduced in the early 2000s, and Repreve started as recycled polyester, and now it has kind of evolved into an umbrella brand that we have that includes recycled polyester, filament yarn and staple fiber, and then also recycled nylon, filament and staple fiber. And then we also sell the actual resin itself too, to go again into molded plastics or anything along those lines. So we continue to see the growth of the market, and just want to continue to partner with brands and work together to make a better place.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, well, let's get to the meat of our questions now. I think I wanted to start you off with a really general one that we all want to talk about. And basically, what is sustainability? How do you define sustainability? How should we think about what sustainability actually is?
Yeah, and for me, and this is I guess Chad's definition, and it may not be exact, but for me, sustainability, you have to look at the whole process, and it really starts at the very beginning. And it's not just what you're doing in terms of the fibers that you're choosing or the processes that you're choosing. It's an everyday life. It's the choices you make throughout. When you wake up in the morning. How are you, what are you doing to drive to work? What type of car are you driving? Is it an electric car? Is it a gas powered car? From a textile standpoint, though, what we look at is really, trying to create products that are better for the environment.
I like it. We are getting a lot of questions in right now from our audience. But before we do that, I want to get into one that we asked in the weekly and that you answered. And that is, do the changes of today's new normal help or hurt sustainability, whether we want sustainability or people giving up sustainability right now just to make it through COVID-19? Right.
And, and obviously the world is changing today. These last 3 to 4 months have been just something that I hope we'd never have to live through again. But we are continuing to see the brands and the retailers have a commitment to sustainability, even though, right now the textile industry has changed immensely. More people are making masks, more people are making gowns, whether it's to keep machinery running. The demand right now, because a lot of the retail in the U.S. is still, depressed. But in the long-term outlook that we see, there's still a large and a very, very heavy commitment to sustainability. So we're not seeing people, maybe short-term, some people, the products they're running are not recycled just because they're running equipment for PPE and for gowns, for masks. But in the long-term commitment to the brands and the retailers, they are still very committed to sustainable products.
And do you see consumers also having that commitment? Because I always see sustainability or green is always kind of like the thing that seals the deal. You've got price, you've got style, and then whether it's sustainable or green is kind of the deal sealer. Are you worried that consumers might care less about sustainability in these times?
We're actually seeing consumers are still very interested in sustainability, to the point that even the younger generation, some of those guys are boycotting brands and retailers that do not have a sustainable commitment. So if you look across all generations, every generation probably has a slightly different outlook of sustainability, but all of them have some level of commitment. And the younger generation really has the commitment, to the point that they're saying, if you don't have some type of sustainable commitment, we're not going to buy your product. And that was 3 months ago, and that is today as well.
Great. Well, that's good. Very good to hear. We have a ton of questions coming in now, so maybe we can, okay. Wow, we have a lot of questions came in, a lot of specific stuff. You're a popular man right now. Maybe we'll look into some of these at first. We'll go to these for a little bit and then come back to some more questions, and then and move around. One of the first questions here is someone who's a customer looking for alternative countries wants to know, what are you seeing in China, especially considering potential tariff on all apparel related products?
In terms of what are we seeing government-wise in China, or what are we seeing from the sustainability demand?
I think the question is, are there other countries that are viable, working on sustainable fabrics and textiles?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, China, China's the largest from a manufacturing standpoint, but there's several countries in Asia now that are looking at sustainable, whether that's Vietnam, Taiwan, Malaysia, even into India. All of those countries are looking, and we're working within a lot of those countries now that as the market moves to different areas of Asia, we as Unify are adjusting and moving into those areas as well.
Sure. Another question here is someone's asking that recycled fabrics often can't be reused again after the consumer's done with the item, which doesn't make it sustainable. From your perspective, what's the solution to kind of a one-stop sustainable recycled?
I would disagree that recycled fabrics or products cannot be reused again. We recycle polyester multiple times. We have taken fabrics in our take back process. We have taken fabrics that contain Reprieve or recycled polyester, and they go back through the recycling process and go right back into a first quality yarn. A lot of it is the actual process and the way that you're doing the recycling. There are many ways to recycle polyester, and really you've just got to make sure that the machinery and the partner that you're working with has the know-how to do the recycling. But we have not found where recycled polyester or garments made of recycled polyester cannot be recycled again.
Yeah, and this works right into another question we have here. Is someone wants to know, how are we going to become a more circular textile industry over time, and how Unify is supporting that kind of end-of-life recycling? Sure.
And from a circularity standpoint, it really all does start with the design, and what you've got to start at the beginning. You've got to look at, if I'm going to design or develop a product to be a circular product, you have to look at the inputs. What are the fibers? What are the appliques? What kind of buttons are you using? What are the zippers you're using? What type of print or what type of finishes am I putting on this product? All of those choices will allow the product to be either harder or easier to recycle at the end. We have several programs that we're working on with customers now, that whether it's a post-industrial recycle, we're actually taking cut waste from the cut and sew floor, or whether it's a post-consumer recycled where there are actually garments that are coming back. But the garments do have to be deconstructed, and the ease of deconstruction. So when you're developing and designing that garment, the less you have to remove from that garment to allow it to go back into the recycling process, the easier it's going to be to recycle.
Sure. Are there certain brands or certain examples you've seen that you've worked with? It's all right if you can answer this, but who you think are really doing a good job when it comes to this circularity into making products that are easier to keep recycling?
I mean, the outdoor industry as a whole, which is, a lot of that are on this call right now, a lot of those guys are doing a good job. And you don't really have a lot of brands right now that are as far along, but you have a lot that are in the early stages of development in how do we, and we're having conversations with them now, how do we design these products to make them easier to be recycled? And that's the thing, if you engage the fiber suppliers or whoever you're wanting to recycle with on the front end, we can guide you a little bit of, all right, these are the things to avoid. These are the things that we would recommend. Single fiber certain things like that. So I don't really have any specific examples of brands that I would like to call out, but I would say that we have several that are in the early stages of doing that development now.
Are there some, do you see, a lot of the success in the outdoor industry bleeding over into mainstream industries, mainstream brands that are really interested in what's going on here?
We do. We're seeing a lot of the outdoor industry was one of the first industries to really drive recycled, and now they're early in driving the circularity part, and you're starting to see that go mainstream. From a recycle standpoint, the likes of Target, Walmart, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, all those guys are now having these having recycled. And I think all of them in some form or fashion have had some discussions around, okay, how do I now handle the waste that I'm producing, or handle the garment that I've made? How do I make that to where it can go back into a usable garment again and not go to the landfill? Because the bottles are one problem. Now I think a lot of the retailers and a lot of the brands are now seeing, well, what do we do with this fabric? What do we do with the garments that people are wearing? What do we do with the 80 pounds of waste that people throw away a year in clothing?
And what do you think is the most effective way for retailers or even brands to communicate to consumers what's going on with the product, to communicate circularity, to communicate where these fibers are coming from and where these plastics are coming from?
Sure. A lot of it's storytelling, on garment storytelling, hang tags. Hang tags are good, but it's always good to put something like a heat seal or something in the garment that tells the story, because that really does carry the life of the garment. Where a hang tag, a lot of times they're jerked off and thrown away immediately. Sure. In-store fixtures, we have a lot of people that tell the story there. But really, it's a lot of on garment. One of the most popular things we see is where people want to tell the story about the number of bottles that go into a garment, because that does resonate. And, when someone can say that, like, the fleece I'm wearing has 12 bottles in it, it does kind of say, wow, that is amazing. Or, especially when you get into, we have a lot of products now that are going into contract or residential furniture, and you get a sofa and it could have hundreds of bottles in it. The fabric on there. So a lot of people, when they hear that or see that, it really does kind of open their eyes a little bit.
So we've got into circularity, and of course, it's being an outdoor audience now, people want to go even deeper. Getting a lot of questions on here too about microfibers. And let me find one real quick. I just lost it. Sorry. Well, someone wants to know regarding your comment around more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2050. Is that by weight or by volume?
I would have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure exactly.
So for microplastics, here's the question I was looking for. Do you think using polyester, even recycled polyester, which of course is more sustainable than using virgin fibers, can ever be sustainable due to the issue of microplastic fibers shedding into our water with every wash of our clothes? That's a tough, I guess there are a lot of people out there today studying microfibers, microplastics, and we are monitoring that very closely. I've got a great example that I'm wearing right now that would give you an idea. The fleece that I'm wearing right now, if I wash it, you're going to have little pieces of fiber come off of that because it has been surface finished. It has been either sanded or some type of finish or cut, shaved, and you always are going to have some loose fiber. The polo I'm wearing is 100% filament. If I wash this, you would not see any microfibers or microplastics come off of it. A lot of it is really, what you have people who are looking at putting filters on washing machines. You're having people look at putting,
what are they doing? You know, a lot of people are trying to, in some cases, move away from spun yarns because they see that because of the short fiber as being an issue. What I would say, we're continuing to monitor it. I'm not sure where it's going to end up. I'm not sure if we're going to end up with, like you have the lint filter on your dryer, if you're going to have some type of filter on your washing machine. It is definitely something that we're continuing to monitor. I would say that, you know, all fibers, whether it's polyester or any other fiber, those short fibers, you know, they're going to come off in the wash. It's just, you know, what's happening with them post that.
Sure. You know, I know this relates back to the outdoor. When I was a wilderness ranger, we would look at campsites, and there was something called limits of acceptable change, right? When you would look at, you know, if you look at the impact you make just camping in the wilderness, it can drive you mad. In the same way, scalability, I guess, and looking at what you can do when it comes to being sustainable, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly. I mean, it's, you know, there are, you know, that's why you see people right now that will go to a certain level of sustainability, and they just decide not to go any further because of it, and it could be any reason. But yeah, we see that throughout the industry today.
Sure. Here we have a good kind of specific question for you, and I think it goes into a larger question too. And it is, what can a tiny brand with a small budget do to participate in sustainability? What's the most impactful thing we can do before we've gotten to scale?
You know, I would say from any brand, regardless of size, and we work with a lot of smaller brands, and we have a lot of smaller brands come into us asking for our assistance in getting them into the market for sustainability. And it's starting with the choice of the fiber you make. You know, you make the conscious choice to go with a recycled fiber. You know, in my case, I'm going to talk about recycled polyester or recycled nylon, and then you know, you can reach out and work with the fiber supplier, the yarn supplier. They can, you know, we help a lot of the smaller people kind of put a supply chain together. Connect them with mills that are using the product now, and they can then develop a garment based on the fabrics that the mill may be running for multiple people, or you know, that are using recycled product. So really, the main thing is just, if you're a smaller brand, make that commitment to start with a sustainable product and stay the course. I mean, just make sure you stay the course, and then, on a smaller brand, I would also say, tell your story. You know, make sure you really tell the story. If you're wanting it to be recycled, make sure that your own garment, you're in store. If you're an online person, you've got it all over your website that you're using a recycled material, because it's going to drive, again, when I said a lot of the younger generation now, they're out there actively searching for brands that have a sustainable initiative, and they're going to find you. I mean, if you're online and you're marketing that you're using a recycled product, they're going to find you. So that would be my suggestion.
Sure. We are also getting a lot of questions here that want to know if there's a quality difference, a durability difference between, you know, recycled fiber and virgin fiber.
Yeah, and you know, there are many ways that you can recycle, and in short, if the processes are put in place, and that's from the beginning of the process to the end of the process, you can end up with a polyester product that is, from a look, from a feel, from a touch, from performance, is no different than virgin. You know, again, you've got to make sure that you're partnering with the right suppliers of that raw material, and their process is good about getting the product, the tenacities, the color, you know, again, the look, the feel, the hand, all of that. You're going to be the same as virgin polyester if you're working with the right partners. We have a lot of product today that I don't like using the term drop-in replacement, but that's probably the best way to put it. You're always going to have to go through merge change, like dyeability checks and things like that. But in terms of the garment appearance, how it dyes, how it performs, how it knits, how it weaves, you're not going to see a difference in recycled polyester and virgin polyester.
And there was another question here, kind of on a practical level. Someone wanted to know how they can get their used polyester apparel, how they can get it recycled, where they would take it, what they would do with it, collect it.
And the biggest, and that's probably one of the dilemmas that we're running into today. There are a lot of companies now that are popping up that will do the collection process, the sortation process, because if it's just 100% polyester, there are areas that you can go with, but in a lot of cases, these garments are blends as well, and that can create bigger issues. I would suggest that they do some research, or they can reach out to me, and I can connect them with some people who can help collect those garments. We have a lot of partners and people that we know that are doing that collection now. So we can definitely at least lead them in the right direction if they have material they're wanting to divert from the landfill.
Perfect. While we're having this conversation, I had another question for you, kind of away from the technical stuff, but you're one of the most knowledgeable men around when it comes to recycled and sustainable fabrics and threads. How did you get started off on this path? How did this become your passion?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I've been with Unify for almost 13 years now. Prior to Unify, I was in the textile business, and sustainability in the textile business probably started again in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the area of the textile business that I got started in was more around the contract fabric world. That's going to be your office chairs, things like that, task chairs. And that was one outside of the outdoor industry. That's probably the other industry that really took hold of recycled product early on. And it's just one of those things that when I saw it, I fell in love with it. I saw the need for it. And then when I came to Unify, I really saw saw a company that was committed not only from a product side, but from the overall everything we do within the company trying to be as sustainable as we can. And it keeps evolving, and we keep trying to push ourselves, and in turn, I push myself, to look for ways to continue to be more sustainable, whether that's in the products that I purchase every day, or the programs that I work with customers on a day-to-day basis.
And what have been some of your biggest wins along the way? What have been some of the things that have made you feel the best about what you're doing?
I would say some of the biggest wins that I've seen are just when you, and I unfortunately I can't talk specifically about some of them, sure. But I would just say that working with a major brand and taking whether it's a footwear product or an apparel product, and really starting at the ground and developing that product all the way through. And then the big things I love to see is when I go into a store and I see that product in the store, the finished product in the store. That's really when I really say, okay, that's a win, because I actually saw that on the drawing board, and sure. And that really makes me feel like I've accomplished something when I've started at the beginning, and when it's actually in the store or online. I constantly look for the hang tag that we offer, the little green bottle, anywhere I go. And I point it out to anybody that's with me every time I see it. So that's made of Reprieve. That's recycled. And it's just, that's something that I do. And every time I see one of those, I feel like there's another win. So every time I see one of those, every time I see our product on garment, I feel it's a win. So sure. I would say I have hundreds of thousands of wins, and I can't claim them because I haven't worked on all of them. But as a whole, because I'm an employee of Unify, I feel it's a win.
Sure. Yeah. Well, guess what? We got not just a question here, we got an answer, I believe. Someone is telling us that it's actually the weight of microplastics that will be more than fish by 2050. And that it's researched by Jenna Jambeck, if anyone's interested. So we're the question here. Yeah. Going back to the reader questions a little bit now, a lot of people are also seem to be interested in how the price of oil right now is affecting polyester and what you do and how that keep you competitive working with polyester fabrics. Does that have an influence on what's going on?
Yeah, and the price of oil right now, actually, gas is starting to go back up, but oil does have an impact obviously on polyester prices. It indirectly has an impact on recycled polyester pricing. And there's always a delta between the two. Sometimes that delta is a little larger, sometimes it's a little smaller. But it does impact as we see oil prices go down. You will see recycled polyester prices. They may drop a little bit. There's generally a lag of a couple months between that, and the percent drop that you see in recycled is not the same percent drop that you're going to see in a virgin product. Again, you're taking these bottles and you're actually having to purchase them on an open market. So you're actually having to do that purchase. And then the process of taking that bottle and turning it into a drop-in replacement for virgin material is a more costly process than just taking crude oil and turning it into that virgin material. You're having to go through much more filtration, a lot of things. Your waste is much higher that you generate, but that's part of the story.
Sure. And I think we have a great question here from someone I won't name, but I know she just turned 40, and it is happy birthday to you. How energy and water intensive is poly recycling compared to virgin poly production? Because it's not just a question of the finished material impact itself, but also the impact of the process for melting, extruding, spinning, manufacturing, washing, finishing, et cetera. So I think that's a great question and leads right into what you were getting at there too, right?
Yeah. So the energy, if you look, the energy, the water consumption is less. You do use less energy, less water consumption. If you look from end to end of taking from a bottle to a yarn or a fiber to crude oil to a fiber. So, it's anywhere between 25 to 30% less in energy and water when you look at that. If you're looking at recycled polyester production, and that's one of the things that a lot of people like is that you can show the amount of water you're saving by using a recycled product. You can show the amount of greenhouse gas emissions you are saving. You can show the amount of energy you are saving by using a recycled material versus a virgin material. So it is less across all three of those.
Sure. And adding on to that, someone also wants to know if the recycled poly created from plastic is any worse for the environment and landfills than regular polyester.
Our research we have not found that sure. That we're not seeing that it is less than normal polyester. PET is PET. Polyester is pretty much polyester.
And someone else wants to know if you're only making recycled polyester from plastic bottles.
We make we make recycled polyester from plastic bottles. We have some different types of reprieve that we make that are also made from textile waste. And those are probably the two main end uses or two main waste streams that we're using right now. We're always constantly evolving and looking at what's next. What is the next waste material? Whether is that a film, is that some other type of plastic material, but right now it's going to be PET bottles or in the other types of reprieve that we have. It could also include some post-industrial textile waste.
Sure. And someone else here has a really great question. Basically, if we keep doing our job and are being more sustainable globally, that'll mean we use fewer plastic bottles. So how will that affect what you guys do if we manage to eliminate plastic bottles?
And we've had that question a lot. Right now, the two major producers of plastic bottles, Coke and Pepsi, are still producing quite a bit of plastic bottles. The world is still consuming a lot of those bottles. One of the biggest things, and probably one of the most negative things that I see in the U.S. is that the recycle rate in the U.S. is still around 30%. So even though we think we're doing a good job, we're still at 30%, or in some cases, depending on month over month, we may be less than 30% of the bottles that we are consuming are going to the recycle bin. Everything else is still going to a landfill. Compare that to some of the other major countries. China is over 80%, Germany is over 80%, Japan is over 80%. So we as a U.S. citizen, we should continue to try to build and grow that recycle rate. There's still so many bottles that are going to the landfill that could be going into recycling.
Sure. And a bunch of people also want to know whether it's just the clear plastic bottles, does color affect it? And likewise, when you're recycling polyesters that have been dyed, does the coloring and dye, does that affect the process?
Yeah, and it depends on the type of recycling process that you're doing. So from a mechanical recycling process, as we are doing at Unify, when we get that bale of bottles in, we actually do sort by color. So typically you're going to take the clear and the blue bottles. Those are going to be what you're using in the majority of your manufacturing. The green and the amber bottles can be recycled, but they're not going to go into the gray or the grayish or the natural color yarn that you mostly see. They could potentially go into like a solution dyed color. From a textile standpoint, they're talking fabric textiles. Again, in a mechanical process, yes, color will impact the end product because we're not removing that color. We're actually, from our standpoint, when we do textile take back, we're going to go back into like an over-dyed black, like a solution dyed black product to cover up the color that you're going to end up with when you're putting all the different colors of fabric in the machine.
Fantastic. Someone now is saying too that Dasani is now making plastic bottles partially made of plant material. Are you still able to turn this type of plastic into poly?
Yeah, and that's it's a very small percentage of those bottles are plant material. We can use a little bit of that. We would, obviously, if it's going in as with the mass population, it does not create an issue for us.
And we've had a couple questions now too, whether any of the materials that you're making, the fabrics you're making, are biodegradable, or whether you guys see that as a option or something you're looking at.
And we are exploring the biodegradable avenue. Currently, we are partnering with a company and can offer a biodegradable product. and we're starting to see a little more interest in that. Right now, the interest is pretty small. I would say probably the largest area of interest that we're seeing is in the outdoor industry or in the contract fabric industry. It's kind of amazing how those two industries, as different as they are, they kind of do follow along in a lot of the same sustainable direction. So we are seeing that, but it's just early. It's kind of early on right now. I think a lot of people are exploring that biodegradable question and what can be said, what can't be said, how is it being tested, how do we really define it? And I know there's a lot of groups out there right now working on a lot of those questions to get answers, because I think there's a lot more questions around biodegradability right now than there are answers, but it is something that we are also working on. Great.
There's actually some specific, I think, questions here about Reprieve as well. Someone wants to know if we would like to purchase Reprieve made from post-industrial textile waste. Does it have a separate name that we can call out? And is this version available in China?
And so in China, we currently do not have a product in the filament world, in filament polyester that is not 100%. That contains post-industrial waste. The only thing we have available is 100% post-consumer. In staple fiber, we can offer a product in China that does contain some post-industrial waste. In the U.S., we do have a product that contains post-industrial waste, and that from the U.S. side, we call it our Reprieve hybrid blend. So it's a hybrid. It contains some post-consumer and it contains some post-industrial.
And the same question here wants to know if you're doing any dope dye type of filament or chip that can come in a variety of colors.
We are doing, and now did they specify whether that's in China or in the U.S.?
They did not, but it was the same person who wanted to know about China, so.
Okay, we can do that. It's more on a custom basis right now.
Sure. And there was another specific Reprieve question. Oh, this is a good one. Someone wants to know if there's anything specifically different about the Reprieve product versus traditional recycled material. What makes Reprieve really stand out?
Sure. Exactly. Whoever asked that was a great question. With Reprieve, there are several things that we feel do set us apart. First off, just the quality. We do hold ourselves at a very high standard of quality, trying to, again, make that recycled material as close to virgin material as possible. But probably the other thing that really sets us apart is what we call our Utrust certification. It's our traceability. Every pound of Reprieve, regardless of where we produce it in the world, we actually put a proprietary tracer in that product. So what does that mean? That means that we could take the garment, that means we could take the fabric, we could test it, and we can tell you whether or not it contains Reprieve, and not only whether or not Reprieve is present, but at what level Reprieve is present. So we carry multiple certifications. We carry third-party certifications. The most common third-party certification out there right now is GRS, Global Recycle Standard. We have that for Reprieve. We also have a third-party certification through SCS for recycled content. But on top of that, Reprieve has that other tracer ability that we do feel sets us apart, that allows the customer, whether that's the brand or the retailer, who has spec'd in Reprieve, to say, yes, this is Reprieve. And they send us the fabric, we will test it, we send a certification letter out stating what level of Reprieve it's in, and yes, it does contain Reprieve. So that for us is really one of the biggest things that sets us apart. The other thing is the amount of marketing that we can offer. We do a lot of partnering with our brands that we work with in co-marketing. That in itself, whether that's digital, in-store, own garment marketing. We can either help them with assets we supply or help them design their own assets using the Reprieve logo. So, we do offer a lot of additional things outside of just the yarn sale for the, whether that's, at the end of the day, it would be the brand or the retail, and then also with the mill that we're working with.
Great. Going back to one of our main themes, maybe, and there were a lot of questions on this. How do we know when something is really sustainable and a company or a manufacturer is really working towards sustainability rather than just paying it lip service or greenwashing? Sure.
And I kind of touched on that a little bit, but it starts with the transparency. You have to start with, how transparent are they? What types of certifications they carry? The fact, we as Unify and with Reprieve, we have multiple third-party certifications we offer. And then, the next piece, again, is that tracer that we offer that allows that really extra check to say, yes, this is recycled. Because from a chemical makeup, polyester is polyester. So, outside of just that paper certification, having that tracer and being able to test and tell you whether or not it does contain it and it contains it at this level really does allow that person to say and feel very confident when they are promoting recycled material that, yes, they are promoting a recycled product, that if they're questioned, they have all the documentation to back up the statement they're making to the public.
Perfect. And let me see if we can grab one more of these small questions here. Someone's saying that, companies that are interested in understanding again, not a question, but a comment on this. Companies that are interested in understanding their sustainability performance and opportunities and improvement can use industry tools like the Higg Index. So, added value there.
Yeah, the Higg Index, and that is, we're starting to see more and more popularity in the Higg Index. And that's a way that you can pretty much determine the sustainable footprint of your garment. And we're doing a lot. We're starting to do some work with them as well.
Perfect. And there's a lot of questions here. I think you've gotten more questions than anyone who's been doing one of these chats before. So unfortunately, we can't get to every one of them. A lot of them I can kind of combine a lot, though. A lot of people are really interested in the process of recycling garments and, how clean those garments have to be, what impedes the process, what doesn't, if there's different combinations of fabrics that work better. Someone's asking if should all trims be stripped from a garment. So I think a lot of people are really interested in that process of recycling a garment and what goes into it, what can be done and what can't be done. And it's a pretty long question, but is there a kind of basic rundown you can do with that?
Yeah, and what I'm going to speak to is what we do within Unify, which again is mechanical recycling. If you're chemical recycling, this answer could be completely different. But from a mechanically recycling process, the biggest things that you would want to do is you would want to have either 100% or we can handle up to about 10% spandex or lycra content, but you would need 100% polyester or up to 10% spandex content. Where we have issues is cottons, rayons, wool fibers. All of those would not process through a mechanical recycling process. They create issues in the filtration that did not allow it to process. You also need to look at your prints. Do you need to remove trims? It depends on the makeup of the trim. If it's 100% polyester, but if it's not 100% polyester, it would need to be removed. Buttons. You're now starting to see buttons being made of polyester. So if they're a polyester-based button, you can keep it on. But if it's not a polyester button, that wouldn't work. Zippers, those would have to be removed, mainly because a lot of your zippers now have metal content, which would create issues. Really, what we do is it has to go through a qualification process. You're having to look at different finishes, because in a lot of cases, you may have a finish on the garment or on the textile that you do not think would create an issue. But if you're taking that finish up to a temperature that it's never been designed to go to, it can create off gases and things like that. That it may not be harmful to the textile that you produce, but it could be harmful in our facility to our employees. So we're very cautious around all of that. We take every take back garment, or however, very almost as a capsule program, where we're looking and working directly with that person and qualifying every product that they're trying to bring back.
Perfect. Maybe I'll do one last of these. Again, I want to apologize to everyone. We had so many. Usually we try to get to every question, and this time we got so many questions that there's no way we can do them all. I'm trying to get as many in together as I can, but someone wants to know, how do you become a recycling pickup location for Unify? That's a good question.
So for a recycling pickup, I'm wondering if they're talking about bottles. If it's bottles, we work with just your major material reclamation facilities pretty much throughout the eastern part of the U.S. If it's fabric, again, that would be something where we would have to work one-on-one with that person and really qualify what they would be wanting to send back to us. And I'll give you one other small question here. A specific one is, someone wants to know if PBT is compatible with the recycling process or just PET. And maybe you can explain what PBT is first, because I don't know. So yeah, PBT it's a different type of polyester, and it would not go into our process. We would not be able to recycle PBT with PET. PBT is recyclable, but it would not be able to go back into the process. And if you had it blended with PET, it would not. We would not be able to process that.
Sure. And the person who asked about recycling pickup just wanted to clarify that they were interested in clothing for pickup, not bottles.
Yeah, that. I mean, we're really not right now. Again, from a clothing standpoint, we handle those on a capsule process. I would just suggest that they reach out directly to us to have a further conversation.
Great. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour. We can go a little over, but we want to keep it pretty tight. So maybe now, getting too close to the end, we'll go to the last question that we asked in the weekly itself, and that would be, how do you think this market might change over the next few years?
I mean, we continue to see growth of recycled material. You're continuing to see brands, from the smallest brand out there to some of the largest brands, ask for sustainable products. And they're making public-facing statements around sustainable commitments. And as that happens, we feel that you're going to continue to see the growth of recycled material in the industry. We think that you're going to start probably also seeing more focus on circularity and people wanting to take fabrics and garments back, and just really an overall continued commitment to sustainability in the textile industry as a whole. But I would say the outdoor industry always is a leader. So I think more and more of those products are going to continue to move towards a sustainable footprint.
Perfect. Okay, well, we've got one last good question here. From a philosophical level to you. Someone's posing this question to you. If a consumer is buying 2 sustainable backpacks versus 1 durable backpack that isn't as sustainable, are we making a difference net in sustainability?
And I guess the way I look at it, I mean, the backpack I have actually is made of it's actually made of Reprieve. I've had it for over 2.5 years. I would say that you don't have to give up quality for sustainability. So you got to look at the backpack. I mean, just because it's a sustainable backpack doesn't mean it needs to be thrown away quickly. So don't give up quality for sustainability. Make sure you make the right choice. And there are many backpacks out there today that are made of recycled material, and Reprieve specifically, that last years. And to the point that I probably should have thrown mine away a long time ago, but it's still very usable, and I love it. So, my daughter changes backpacks every year, and I've had this one for over 2. So, it just continues.
Oh, yeah. I mean, holding on to a product longer is always going to be a better sustainable answer, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say then before we close up? Anything else you came up or is on your mind? It's important.
Yeah, I just again, thank you for the opportunity. Love discussing sustainability, love discussing recycling, and just continue to support everyone out there who's wanting to go down this road with us. And just thanks for everyone who attended. Thanks for all the customers who continue to choose Reprieve, and we just look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, this is a really great conversation. It's glad to do it. I want to thank you, especially in Unifying. I also want to thank everyone out there with their questions. I hope we answered them the best we could. And I want to let you know that next week we will be back with the building blocks of digital success with Kelly Ramirez and Brian Hennessy from Talkroot and Prismatic. They're going to be talking about demystifying the e-commerce process, that it's not as bad and horrible as you think. Again, Chad, thank you so much. I think we had your slides up and contact info, and anyone who wants to contact you can find that or get it through us. And this whole conversation, whether this is a good thing or bad thing, is recorded and is going to be available on the Outdoor Retailer website under the weekly chat section.
Well, Doug, great talking to you, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you.